Welcome back to the DHD Racing podcast. Today we're going to be talking about the Bahrain Grand Prix. It was the first race of the season. Okay, so I feel like we need to talk about perhaps the best moment of the race, in my opinion. Or the best, maybe not moment, but
Accomplishment.
yes, that's the word I was looking for. Thank you.
Yeah.
Fernando Alonso.
I'm
Definitely
so
the
conflicted.
standout performance from the race, I thought. Like Max Verstappen won it, but no one was talking about that. Do you know what I mean? Like it was
Yeah.
Oh,
Aston
yeah.
Martin all the way.
I mean,
Definitely.
Fernando got driver of the race, so
Mhm.
Deservedly so. You know what my favorite moment was him fighting Lewis.
Hamilton. Yeah.
That was everything I'd ever wanted. That was so good. And the fact that Lewis didn't make it easy as well. And the Mercedes is obviously not performing up to maybe standard this season so far, but Lewis didn't make it easy, and I just sort of thought that whole battle was so good. I loved it.
I mean, like, that's what racing's about. It was just such a good, it was a good fight to see. It was great.
Definitely. I loved it. I think I'm now going to become a fan of Fernando Alonso. He just, I don't even have words. I just
I'm
was so
already there.
excited. I was
See,
sat in my Aston Martin hat, writing in my Aston Martin book, with my Aston Martin pen, and I was like, yes, go on, Fernando. And everyone else around me is like, when did you become an Alonso fan? And I was like, right now. That's when I became an Alonso fan.
Drive
No,
to
do you know what?
survive. Drive
Our
to
group
survive. I
chat-
became an Alonso fan.
No, our group chat is where I became an Alonso fan.
All of his TikToks.
But that
Man is a
moment,
social media legend.
oh yeah, but that moment where he overtook Carlos makes me very conflicted. I was sitting in front of my TV. I was going, no, 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 no. Me and my brother, no, 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 no. But I'm happy for
Darine,
him.
was this your first race that you've watched live?
Yeah.
Oh my gosh! So
Where did you watch
you almost
it?
got Carlos podium.
Sky Sports. I got Sky Sports for this.
Did you actually?
Yeah.
You have to do it. You have to do it.
I had to.
Even I don't have
Them on
my own
that.
Sky Sports account.
Really?
I used my cousin's. We're going to the pub.
I had to. I had no choice.
Mhm.
But yeah.
Oh my God. No, see, I feel like though the three of us, because as Brits, two as Northampton girlies, I feel like we're kind of already set up to want to support Aston Martin.
Yeah, I was so
they're a
thinking that.
Northampton-based team. Like they built that car in Northamptonshire.
Yeah.
So I was so just cheering it on because I so wanted it to do well, because that means that the people who made it are people who are working at that factory in Northampton, and I think that's so cool. So I'm totally here to be an Aston Martin fan this season.
Oh yeah, I'm on board now.
So am I. I already kind of was a fan because of Jess Hawkins being linked to Aston Martin, and obviously you all know I still am a Sebastian Vettel fan, even though he's no longer in Formula One. But so I did already support Aston Martin prior to this season, and that's why I had my cap and everything. But now I'm like, yeah, I'm definitely an Aston Martin fan.
Well, you know, maybe it could be that maybe Sebastian Vettel was playing like a Michael Schumacher for Mercedes-esque role. You know, how Mercedes never really got those wins while Michael Schumacher was driving for them, but I feel like he's quite an important part of their team history and like development. So I feel like maybe Sebastian Vettel had that kind of role with Aston Martin, perhaps.
Yeah, that's an interesting take. I haven't thought of that before.
That's what I'm here for all the
Okay.
I think we should I also want to before we move on from Aston Martin, I want to quickly mention Lance Stroll, who just like put in
I was gonna say
performance of maybe the year by coming sixth with like what was like
One and a
pins
half functioning wrists.
holding his hands together. That's so it's like metal.
Yeah,
I
because
mean,
he had
he's so cool.
pins in his wrists. He had broken toe, and I was a
Yeah.
little bit skeptical because I was worried about the safety of it. Like I don't know how true this is, but I heard they have to pull him out of the car because he can't get out of the car. And like if there was an accident, say if the car caught on fire,
He wouldn't have been able to get out
he wouldn't have been
by
able to get
himself.
out. And also, they have to do that test, which I think they have to be able to get out of the car within 5 seconds.
Mm.
Surely
I think
he
it's
was not
7.
able to do that. So I was just very shocked that the FIA and I guess Aston Martin let him race.
Yeah.
Because I do think it was a little bit of a safety hazard, I guess. And I did think that Felipe Dragalicious was going to be racing this weekend, and I was very shocked when they announced that Lance was well enough to race.
Yeah, me too.
Bearing in mind he was 12 days out of surgery, 14 days after the accident, I was like, whoa, okay.
Yeah, I was like, there's no way. And there
I thought
wasn't
as well,
any way. He was still
just the driving alone surely was enough to put like a lot of strain
a
on
lot
them,
of
right?
stress
Like
on
I
his
don't know
wrist.
if you saw during I think it was the national anthem, he went to go and put his hands on his hips. I just forgot what that part of the body was called.
Yeah.
And he like went to do it and then like was like, ah, that hurt. And then he put his arms down and you could see that he was like, I forgot that my wrists aren't okay. And you could just see him like in pain.
Oh my God.
Yeah.
Well,
it's
now he
the
has 2
behavior
weeks
of a
to
maniac.
recover.
Mm-hmm.
He's crazy, but he pulled it off.
Yeah.
Mhm.
So
That was
well
very,
done,
very
Lance.
impressive.
Very impressive.
I actually quite like Lance. I know people, I've seen a lot of people on the internet who are like, Lance Stroll this, Lance Stroll. No, he's funny. And at the end of the day, he's a good driver. And to that last race just proved that.
Mm-hmm.
I like Lance.
I think it's because he's had a lot of like unfortunate sort of coincidences maybe. So there's obviously the thing with him taking Ocon's seat at Racing Point, and then there was something else that happened that people were a bit like, oh, they thought it was his dad's influence or something. But I always sort of, I'm definitely now so thinking that like he's clearly a good driver. He's clearly unbelievably dedicated, and him and he never attempts to hide in any way his family collections or anything like that. So and the thing that always annoys me about like if we want to use the phrase, I hate it, but nepo babies or whatever. The thing that always annoys me is when people try and be like,
they're
no,
always like, no, I worked for this.
But like it's like but they don't try and hide it. So there's sort of this thing of like, yeah, I do have this connection or whatever, but I'm going to prove to you that I would have gotten here anyway. And like and because he's good, people stop caring about that. Like I think he's clearly massively talented and massively dedicated, regardless of who his family connections are. And also he's clearly picked a good team to drive in, hasn't he? Like I feel like a lot of drivers would be wanting the Aston Martin seat this year. So I'm so here for Aston Martin all around this year. I think I love their Alonso, Lance, Felipe Drugovich, the whole thing.
Oh yeah.
I think that as well, like if you're in Formula One, you have to have some amount of talent to be there, right? You can't just expect that because your parent owns a team that you are going to get a seat, because you do need talent. Otherwise, if you don't deliver, if you don't deliver, you're going to make you and your family look,
and the team
like idiots.
horrible.
Like you're going to look terrible.
Yeah.
So I do think that Lance is talented. And I think another thing that kind of contributes is I feel like we don't know much about Lance, like as a fan base. Like if you take other drivers, I know he's not in the sport anymore, but I'm going to use him as an example. Daniel Ricciardo, we learned a lot about him, his personality.
Yeah.
Lance is a bit more reserved, and we don't know that much about him really. So I think if we did know a bit more about him, then maybe he'd be deemed a bit more likable. So that does play into a factor, I think, as well.
Can I just say, this is completely a 180 from the conversation, but kind of not. I find it really funny how whenever I see like any F1 TikToks and they talk about like F1 drivers as blank or F1 drivers, blah, 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 they always still include Daniel. I love that everyone's just agreed that we're still including him. I love that. And I think it just says a lot about A, who he was, and about B, how much everyone loves him. Anyways, moving on.
Definitely. 100%.
Yeah,
Okay,
moving
shall
on.
we move on to a bit of an unfortunate turn of events? That
Okay, hold on,
was-
because this could be a number of different.
This could be
okay.
many things.
Guess what I was gonna say?
It's
DNF, Ferrari.
I'm gonna go McLaren disaster.
I was actually gonna talk about Charles DNF, but they still valid, Holly, still valid.
Still very valid. Oh my God.
Yes.
It could have also been Esteban's absolute disaster race.
It could have been.
But
It could have been.
We'll get
We'll
onto
get to
that in a
that.
bit. But with Charles DNF, I was like, it's good for Ferrari. Yes, I'm not going to be a depressed Ferrari fan this year. And
Literally.
then he DNF'd. And so context, I was at the pub watching it with quite a few of people in my course, and I'm just going, no, 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 no. They all turn around and look at me. They all turn and look at the screen, and then they all go, no, 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 no. And we're all in the pub just going, no, 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 no. And I just went like this, and I was like, no. And they were like, are you okay? And I was like, I don't want to be a depressed Ferrari fan again.
I think you might have to be.
My brother got up to like go and get some food and come back. And in those like 2 minutes that he was gone, I was like, oh my God. Oh my God. Oh my, and like I yelled to him, you will not believe what just happened. And I was like, take a guess. And he was like, Ferrari messed up. Something happened. And I was like, yeah, Charles is out of his car. Yeah. In 2 minutes.
See, Ferrari, if they like want to be for where they were last year, sort of one driver finishing fourth is just not where they should be.
Yeah.
At the moment, like it just, and the fact that Charles was doing so well as
That's
well, like
the
he was
thing.
pretty set to be not fourth, he was pretty set to be third, maybe even challenge for second if he was able to pick up the pace a bit.
I think he was definitely in contention for second.
Like, oh, I was so devastated. I was devastated.
But you know what? You know what? I think this is the Bahrain curse coming through because last year Max DNF'd and then he won the championship. So, and it was like towards the end of the race as well. So I have faith that this is actually Ferrari's big master plan and they're setting the Bahrain curse in motion.
Also, Ferrari, not Ferrari. I just had such a blank brainwave then. I was gonna say, linked to the Bahrain curse, that for like I think it's like I don't even know like how long, but for quite a few years,
I think
there has been like the winner of the Bahrain Grand Prix has finished second in the championship.
Further back, it's just the winner of the first Grand Prix is always second in the championship.
There we go. So maybe Max might break the curse, or the curse will continue. We'll see.
If anyone is going to break that curse, it will be Max Verstappen. But I don't know, maybe even if he doesn't win, I feel like just from the way that the first race went and the way that all the drivers were talking, I really feel like it would be a Checo World Championship and Max would be second to Checo.
I wouldn't be mad at that.
I wouldn't mind that.
I'd love to see Checo win it. I think he's really underrated actually. Like even as good as everyone knows he is, I think he's underrated.
Yeah.
But yeah, we're not talking about Red Bull at the moment, are we? We're talking about Ferrari.
Okay.
Oh, I was so sad. I was so sad for them.
Carlos did well.
Carlos did very well.
I was proud of him. And apart from that one moment. But it wasn't his fault.
And he held him off for a bit and he held off Lewis for the whole rest of the race. Like there was a good 10 minutes, I think, where Lewis was in DRS range of him. And like
Yeah,
one little mistake during that section and he'd have been in fifth, but he
he'd have
didn't.
been, yeah.
He held it together until he could shake him off. So he clearly did well in that point as well.
Yeah.
And
I was
also
really
we all
proud
saw
of him.
how well obviously the Mercedes wasn't performing great, but we all saw how well Lewis was driving earlier in the race. So,
Definitely.
yeah.
Yes.
Carlos did a good job in that bit, I thought.
Shall we move on to unfortunate circumstances for McLaren?
Oh, it was so bad. I don't understand how they were like they were fifth in the championship. They were fighting for fourth. How? Just how? Like,
I mean,
All I'm
you
gonna
guys
say
saw my
is-
messages.
All I'm gonna
Yeah.
say is you can't expect to mess with Danny Rick and then think that everything
And then
is
think
gonna
you're gonna
go
get away.
up from there.
Yeah, yeah.
you reckon
You're not
Daniel
gonna get
like?
away with it.
Do you reckon Daniel like gave them false data? Like they were like, so
Mm.
does this bit feel good in the car, Daniel? And he was like, yeah, no, it feels great. And he was like, no, it feels terrible.
No, he would never do that. He is a professional.
No,
He is
he's too
professional.
good. He's too nice to do that. Even
Daniel
though I
isn't-
don't know
isn't
that was
petty.
unwarranted.
He
Yeah.
rises above it.
He's actually too nice for that.
Exactly.
Yeah,
And look how
But
well
me-
that's turned out for him. Like,
exactly.
Yeah.
He's the bigger person.
Me and my brother were
Exactly.
just honestly laughing. We were just laughing at McLaren. We were just laughing. I was like, this is what happens
I just
when you
felt
mess with
bad
Danny
though.
Rick.
Like
it was like
obviously
six
at
pit
first
stops,
I was like,
wasn't it?
ha 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 ha.
Mhm.
Like bye bye McLaren. But also I was like, imagine this
How
being your
depressing.
debut. You've had so much controversy about coming into the sport because of your seat
Yeah,
and your contracts,
yeah.
and then you DNF not because of you as a driver, but because of the
Because of
car.
the car. Yeah.
Like imagine that. That was absolutely sorry. I felt so bad. I felt so bad for Oscar.
I
And so
was like,
agree.
quickly into the race as well.
no.
Maybe I'm remembering wrong. It was quite early in the race.
I would say first third
Yeah,
of the
like in
race.
Yeah.
like in the
out.
first quarter, first third.
I felt so bad for Oscar Piastri. I mean, like, and yeah, and it's not just the like all the controversy, but also it's like Will Buxton was saying on pit stop. I know I keep going back to this interview, but it's because it was a really good interview. Like, there's so much hype. There's been so much hype around Oscar of all the rookies. He's had the most kind of like this kid's going to be really good, and he's just not been given a car at the moment that's like capable of doing that. So I agree with you on that. Like, I felt so bad for him. And then Lando Norris getting like. Lando Norris was confusing me actually because he had it was like what 6 pit stops I think the whole thing to just like keep the car functioning. Just kind of it got to a point where I was like, why don't they just take him off like to save parts because he's clearly not going to do better. But then there was that other section where he like I think it was for like 10 or 20 minutes he was like keeping pace with Mercedes and Ferrari. Even though they'd lapped him, but he was like keeping pace with them around the track, and the commentators like picked up on it a few times. So it was like I don't know. It was like he was trying to sort of. It was like he'd gone, okay, I know this race is bad, but I still have this opportunity to prove that I'm my ability. So he was like, I'm just gonna go and show everyone what I can do in the car, even if I'm not gonna get points out of it. So his race was confusing me a bit, I thought.
Yeah.
I mean, you
Daniela,
guys
what
saw
were
my
your
messages about how I felt, and I was just laughing at them because what are you trying to achieve? I don't know.
it was not good. Daniela, what were your thoughts on Norris's race? I'd be interested to hear.
I was a bit disappointed. I'm not the biggest Lando Norris fan. As a driver, I think he's fantastic. I'll leave it at that. So
I agree.
I did kind of expect him to do better
I
than
expected
he
better.
did.
Yeah.
And I don't think that's his fault. I think that's the car's fault and his many pit stops. And they were pumping air. I don't know much about this. I was told a bit about this yesterday, but I don't really understand it because I do not understand engineering. But they were having to pump air for some part of the engine to like continue working and not overheating or something. I can't quite remember.
I think I saw them doing that.
Yeah, because when I was watching it, I was like, what on earth are
What
they
is that?
doing
Yeah.
to his car? Why is it like I was like, they're making the pit stop longer. What are they doing? And yeah, that's what it is. But hopefully going forward they won't have to do that again during a race. I need to do more
Hopefully.
research into it and fully understand, but I don't really know much about engineering, which is quite bad when both my
Yeah.
dad and brother are basically engineers. So, oops. So
But again, at that point, like, why do you when you're at the point where you're having to bring this guy in routinely to like just stop the engine from like overheating? Why do you not at that point? You're already running in last. Why do you not at that point go, we're clearly not going to get any points. Why don't we just retire the car? We ensure the safety of our driver. It means that we don't overuse like what parts we do have, and we can just go straight into improving it for the next one. Like, it was clearly a lost
Right.
cause, but they were just like going through to the bitter end. Like, it was painful to watch a bit.
Right. They just didn't know when to quit. I don't know.
I don't know.
Maybe it's just because I'm not a team principal. Maybe it's because I'm not an engineer, so I can't understand why they would want to continue. But I can't understand what would they gain from wanting to continue.
I guess the only thing I can think
The
of is like
commentary.
experience in the car.
Mm.
That's just
That
not
could be
worth
it.
it to me.
Yeah, the commentary kept saying kept saying, oh, I think they're gonna pull him in now, and then it kept not happening. So, oh yeah, poor McLaren.
Painful.
Okay, so shall we move on to Esteban and Alpine?
Yeah.
Mhm.
Yeah.
Well, it was a very contrasting race for the two
Yes,
Alpine
yes.
drivers. Poor
Understatement of the
Esteban.
century.
Yeah, poor Esteban. It was not his race at all. I don't know. I don't know how. Yeah, I just thought that's just the most unlucky thing that could have happened.
Literally, I can't imagine a
Repeatedly.
worse.
That's not a word, is it? Repeatedly.
No, it is.
It is a word. Okay.
I think
I
it
like
is.
to make up words sometimes, so I have
Repeatedly.
to check.
Repeatedly.
So yeah, repeatedly over and over again, he was just penalty after penalty.
Penalty,
And
10
then
seconds.
Pierre
10
was like
seconds.
the complete opposite, and out of nowhere, he starts in P20, makes it to P9.
I couldn't
I
believe
mean, let's just go over what happened to Esteban as well for a second. So if I remember it correctly, he started wrong in the box,
Yeah,
gets the penalty, comes in to serve the penalty,
does it
doesn't
wrong.
serve it correctly, so gets another penalty, comes back in to serve that penalty, gets another penalty for speeding in the pits. Did he get another penalty after that, or was it just the
No, that was then when he DNF.
Yeah,
So it was
15 seconds or something, or it was 35 seconds or something worth of
So-
penalties that
I
he
wrote it.
got?
I wrote it all down. So lap 16, Ocon gets a 5-second penalty for not being in the right grid position because he went over the line
yeah,
in the grid square.
yeah.
Then lap 21, Ocon takes penalty wrong. Lap 25, Ocon gets a 10-second penalty for speeding in the pit lane.
I don't
Oh, no, that's a lie. That's a lie. He gets a 10-second penalty for taking the 5-second penalty wrong.
Yeah.
Then he speeds in the pit lane and gets another 5-second penalty. And then on lap 43, so that was lap 29, he gets the 5-second penalty. On lap 43, he retires.
Oh wait, he retired as well. I forgot.
Yeah.
Sorry, it's
I
not
feel
funny.
so bad. I shouldn't laugh. But me and my brother, just every time that it came up on the top of the screen, we couldn't help. It was actually so funny. They just kept beating the dead horse. Leave him alone. He's already down. He's already down.
I completely forgot that he DNF'd as well. That's hilarious. And then yeah, Pierre, I feel like he got overshadowed by Aston Martin, but Pierre starting in like last or something and then getting up to
P20.
P9 or P8 or whatever it was.
It was P9,
sensational. Sensational.
Yeah.
And for his first race in Alpine, and everybody was sort of expecting, I think, a much more like equal fight between the two Alpines. So for him to come out straight out the gate and just be like, boom, like I'm gonna outperform
Right, and
you.
also like he didn't need to take a while to like get to grips with the car. He just went for it.
Yeah.
Very confident from and it was quiet as well. Like there wasn't a huge amount of focus on it. I don't know if that's just because he was mainly overtaking back markers, but it just sort of felt like 1 second he was in P20 and then the next second I looked at the race thing, he was in P9. It just happened.
I didn't like watch it happen. I looked up and it happened.
I feel like there wasn't much like footage shown of Pierre's overtakes and making it from P20 to P9. I think there was a
That's the
lot
thing.
of focus
Ev-
with like Aston Martin.
Yeah,
So
everyone was
and
busy with the
we
other
got a lot of
teams.
Ocon action in the pit lane, but we
Yeah,
didn't see much of Pierre. But he did a really good job, and as a Pierre fan, I was quite happy with that result because when he
yeah.
was originally in P20, I was like, oh no, this is going to be a bad day for Alpine. And then
Mhm.
and then he pulled
Then
out the
he turned
bag
it
and he
around.
did well. He did turn it
Yeah.
around. He
I
saw
think
that
it's still
Ocon was not having a good time, so he was like, I need to bring some points home for Alpine today.
exactly. I mean, I think it's probably still not where Alpine would want to be, given where they were in the championship last year. It sort of feels
Mm.
like they've fallen down. It sort of feels like they and McLaren have fallen down, and then maybe Mercedes and Aston Martin have are now
Taken their
filling
place. Yeah.
that space. I don't know.
Mm.
But yeah, no. I thought the fact that Pierre can do P20 to P9 makes me think that maybe if he gets some better qualifying in the future, he'll be able to like bring home some solid points for Alpine. And we already know that
Mm.
Esteban can do it.
Mm.
Just
It just wasn't his day.
yeah.
Okay,
Okay.
so shall we move on to Mercedes?
Yeah.
Oh, yeah, if we must.
I
I was so devastated. I was so hoping like maybe they're still sandbagging, it's fine, and apparently they're not. I mean, I've heard Toto's in like complete like
I've heard he's in crisis
lockdown.
mode.
Yeah, like
I got a
he's
Google
clearly
notification today saying Toto in crisis mode. Like that's literally what it said.
Toto's in crisis mode, and then George looks like he's already just dreaming about 2024. Like the fact that
Mm-hmm.
he said Red Bull are going to win all the races, he looked so deflated. I mean, he was beaten out by both of the Aston Martins as well. And
Mm.
then surprisingly, Lewis seemed all right. I don't know if he's just putting on a good front. I do wonder that sometimes. Maybe he's just trying to keep positive in front of the cameras. But he was
But I think
surprisingly
Lewis drove
okay.
well.
He did drive very well,
So
to be
like
fair.
so I think he still has hope because even though the car wasn't how he wanted it to be, he still drove it well.
Mm.
So I think there's still hope for him, and I think he's still like fighting.
I
Yeah.
think because he clearly knows that he can compete with Ferrari and Aston Martin at least.
Yeah.
Like he showed that. So maybe on like a better track on a better day, and if they sort out this new design, I mean, my gut feeling is now they're gonna make a new design that will be even worse. I mean, touch wood, that won't happen, hopefully.
Mm-hmm.
But
Don't say
yeah,
that. Yeah.
it's interesting times at Mercedes, I think. Although I think they're responding to it better than last year.
Mm.
Last year from Drive to Survive. Maybe not the best response.
I will never get over that clip. I will never stop
It's
saying
taking
it.
everything in me not to
To say it
quote
right now. Not to say it right now, honestly.
Okay.
Right.
I know we kind
Who's
of briefly mentioned Red Bull. But again, George's prediction that Red Bull are going to win every race this season.
I
Do you know
What are
agree
your
with
what?
him.
thoughts and opinions?
I agree with him.
With that atrocious lead that they had on everyone else, I
Oh,
completely agree with him.
yeah.
That lead that they had was almost criminal.
It's the fact it wasn't just Max as well. It was him and Checo.
Yeah,
Both of them
exactly.
with that margin of distance. It's like,
Exactly.
how is anyone going to compete?
Exactly.
Yeah.
Everyone just go home at this point.
But
How
also,
far was it? Like
let's
20 seconds, 30
let's
seconds?
just remember that it is the first race of the season.
That's
I
true.
know.
That's true.
They could have just had an amazing day, and then I don't want to be pessimistic, but it could go downhill for them. It might not. It might be absolutely amazing, but we can't. We're basing this off of one race, so we
Yeah.
can't be
Of course.
like we don't really have the facts yet.
I think that just everyone else had bad days. I think like I don't think any of the other teams were like on a good, like at their best. Apart from like Aston Martin, like Ferrari weren't at their best. Mercedes obviously aren't at their best. Like their usual competitors, they just weren't at their best. And I think that's part of the reason that they had so much of a lead was because everyone else had problems, not because they were any more amazing. Does that make sense?
Yeah.
See, my
Like they
thing
were
with
their
Red
usual.
Bull,
Yeah.
no, my thing with Red Bull is just that I don't see any potential weaknesses. Like all the other teams have sort of got, Mercedes has got fantastic drivers, the car's not holding up. Ferrari's got a great car, good drivers, but the strategy and the team cohesion isn't maybe as where it could be. Red Bull's got an amazing strategist. It's got like the world's most fired up team principal. It's got two of the best drivers. It's got clearly the best car. Like I don't see like a weak point. Or every single other team got like an obvious thing that's like, this is where you're going to mess up if you mess up anywhere. But Red Bull, again, I know it's only one race. See, Daniela wants to be a serious journalist, so she has to consider the fact it's one race. I'm not bound by these constrictions, so I can make wild predictions and then change my mind. And it's fine. So yeah, I think Red Bull for winning every race. I'm here for that, and then maybe like an Alonso win if Checo and Max
sprinkled
take each
in.
other out.
Yeah, sprinkled in.
Yeah, that'll be the problem. That's their weakness. I found their weakness. Their one potential weakness is if Checo and Max start fighting later on. They could turn into a Hamilton and Rosberg situation, take each other out.
Or like Daniel and Max back in the day.
Oh God. But even so, I feel like within that team, the cohesion and the like discipline is there, that they can tell them stop fighting and they'll do it. I feel like maybe maybe I've just not been here long enough, but that's what I see. So like even then, that's not like a huge weakness. It's very inconsequential compared to the other teams.
Yeah, exactly. It's the same kind of weakness that it was for Hamilton and Rosberg, and that like it was a weakness for them potentially individually, but for the team it wasn't. Like
exactly.
You know.
So speaking of Red Bull, shall we move on to their sister team, AlphaTauri?
Yeah, AlphaTauri.
I think I want to know, like, what are your thoughts on Nick de Vries's performance? Because I personally,
where did he finish?
Let me just have a look.
Because it wasn't. I know it was.
He finished
out of the
in 14th.
Okay, that's not as, to be fair, that's not as low down as I thought it was. Because I remember he started off and dropped a couple places, I think, but he made them back. I just think the significant part is that he finished 14th and Yuki Tsunoda was 11th. And throughout the race, while Nick was sort of fighting at the back to get forward, Yuki was consistently hovering around the midfield. Like he was consistently between like P9 and P12 kind of area. He was basically kind of level with Gasly for the whole race. So I think just for the first race, like even though they didn't finish too far apart, just the difference in where they spent most of the race is quite interesting, in that I think a lot of people were expecting Nick to come in and completely like outperform Yuki.
I know I was.
Obviously that didn't happen. I think Yuki very much held his own.
I think it was very interesting that Logan Sargent actually finished ahead of Nick de Vries, because I thought that out of all of the rookies, Nick was going to be the strongest and maybe Logan was going to be the weakest, and Oscar, well, Oscar could have been the strong. I don't really know, but I was not expecting that Logan Sargent would finish quite high up as he did. I'm very impressed with that performance.
The fact Logan Sargent of all the rookies performed the best, especially when you look at the difference in experience. Like Logan Sargent, his like sort of top thing so far is that he finished 4th in F2. Like he didn't even get a podium place. He was 4th in F2. And then you've got Nick de Vries, who obviously I think he's won F2 and like a bunch of other motorsport championships as well. Like he's done Formula E and stuff. And then obviously he was Mercedes reserve driver last year. He's driven a Grand Prix in an F1 car before and finished in the points. And then you've got Oscar Piastri, who's like had one of the best rookie careers of all time. Like I just think the difference of experience, I was surprised by how well he did, to be honest, and by how well Williams did in general. Like they had a really strong. Alex Albon was great. Like they had a really strong performance.
Yeah, Alex finished in 10th, so he got the first point of the season for Williams.
Like Williams getting points in the first race, like a year or 2 years ago, that would have been unthinkable. Like when George Russell was driving for Williams and they like cried when they got one P8, I think it was, or something.
Yeah.
Like,
yeah.
Williams has
Latifi
come a
got
long
P8,
way.
and then I think George got P10 that time. I can't remember.
I
It
don't
was
remember.
2021. We're
But
talking
yeah.
like a year and a half ago. So, shall we? Is there anything else that you guys wanted to discuss?
I feel like we've gone over most of the things for the race. I can't think of anything for the race.
Oh, I didn't get to watch any like F2, F3, anything else. How was that? I didn't have time. How was that, Daniela? Did you watch it?
Yeah, I did. So I watched. I didn't watch the sprint races for F2 or F3, and I also didn't get to watch qualifying for Formula One because I work on Saturdays, which is very annoying. I love my job, but also I missed out on a lot of stuff. I did watch the F3 and F2 feature races though, and they're very, very interesting. I do really enjoy watching F2 and F3 because I do think there are some really fantastic battles that sometimes I feel like in Formula One we don't get the same quite. I don't know whether it's because they have more cars on track or I'm not really sure, but I definitely think in F2 and F3 there's a lot more closer racing and we get some really good battles between drivers. For someone I kind of wanted to shout out was Luke Browning because he went from I want to say it was P17 to P5 in the feature race
Oh wow.
F3, and throughout the whole race, the commentators just kept going back to him and saying how well he was doing, and I just was very impressed by that performance.
P17 to P5 is not insignificant. That's quite a big deal.
Yeah,
I think.
it was
That's a huge deal.
Yeah, and F2 was really good as well. Teo Pourchaire he went off, and it was a bit like Max. He went off, and we didn't really see much of him because he was off ahead. And they made a joke at the end that he finished so far ahead of everyone else that he was watching the screens of all of the battles that was going on behind him because there's like a massive battle in the midfield between Ollie Behrman. I can't actually remember like who was involved, but that was like a big battle going on, and unfortunately, Ollie Behrman didn't make it into the points. It was looking like a P5 finish for him to begin with, and then unfortunately, right towards the end, he dropped back. But Teo did say that he was watching the screens because he had finished a race.
That's how quickly he finished.
So he was seeing what was going on behind him.
See, I didn't watch the race, but obviously I did watch a bit of F2 last year. I am a self-proclaimed Felipe Drugovich fan. And I know everyone was saying that last year was meant to be, it was always like everyone was expecting it to be Teo Pourchaire's year, and then Felipe Drugovich sort of came through and like took it from him. So I feel like maybe this year.
I think this year it might be his year.
Yeah, exactly.
I think another thing I kind of wanted to talk about was Indy NXT because Jamie Chadwick, of course, I'm going to mention her again.
Yeah.
This is her debut at Indy NXT. I want to say she finished 13th. There's 19 cars in Indy NXT. She qualified 18th, I think.
That's good. That's a good improvement.
So
good then.
I will take that. I'm happy with that. I'm looking forward to seeing the next few races and how the annoying part was though that Indy NXT was on at the same time as the F1 race. So I did watch Formula One over Indy NXT, but it was like interesting I did try and follow it along on my phone, but I didn't get to see it. I kind of only had the like live report and standings, but
yeah.
I will take that. And then in terms of IndyCar, I didn't get to watch the race because I don't know how to watch it in the UK when it's live. It was then on at 10 o'clock in the evening, but I had work early the next day, so I went to bed. So I did miss it, but I'm going to see if I can try and watch it somewhere. But I think there was like a crash between Grosjean and I don't know how to say his name. It's like I'm going to say it wrong, so I'm not going to try. But there was a crash. But apparently they both went up and like apologized, and everything's fine now between them two.
Oh.
But Marcus Ericsson won the race. Pato Ward was on track to winning the race. I'm not sure what happened, but something quite near the end I think happened, and he ended up finishing second. So we had a lot of racing this weekend, and that made me very happy.
It's been an eventful weekend.
I'm glad to still hear that Romain Grosjean is still
Over at
performing.
Yeah. He got pole on Saturday in
wow.
qualifying. I was very excited. I did watch that. I did watch qualifying of IndyCar, and I was going, go on, go on, go on. And then he got pole, and I was like, yeah. So that was good. But I do need to somehow fit into my schedule fitting in IndyCar, Indy NXT, F2, F3, everything. Formula E when that's on as well. I think the next race is this weekend. I'm a bit behind. I haven't watched all the races of Formula E. I need to catch up a bit. But
I want to watch Formula E.
I think the next race is this weekend, but I could be wrong. Yeah. Is that everything we wanted to talk about today?
I think it might
be. I think we've covered it. Well done.
Okay.
Yeah.
We did it. We did our first episode on the first race of the season.
I'm so excited. I'm so happy.
We've not had a race to talk about yet, so I felt this is quite an exciting episode to do. Okay.
Very much so.
Right.
Very.
All right, let's wrap it up.
Thank you for listening to the DHD Racing Podcast. Hopefully you'll tune into our next episode. Bye!